A few times.
All right. This meeting of the Sedona Fire District Governing Board is called to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In a moment of silence for our first responders who have passed since our last meeting.
Let's take a moment to remember the 17 police officers and 6 firefighters that passed since our last board meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner and Christie, you want to do a roll call?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Helen McNeil, Chair.
Here.
Corey Cooperman, Clerk.
Here.
Diana Christensen.
Here.
Lance Waldrop.
Here.
Scott Springett.
Here.
Chief Missoula's over to you. We've got some celebrating to do.
Yes. So as we've discussed quite a bit in the past year, Sedona Fire's, leaving our teenage years and entering into adulthood and as a career fire district. And tonight we want to recognize, 11 folks that have hit a 20-year mark with Sedona Fire. And it's a hodgepodge of folks from administrative staff to operational staff. Every single one of these people are great contributors to this organization. And, in the public safety retirement world, 20 years is the first real benchmark for our tier 1 employees that you hit. And while all of these members, achieving 20 years with Sedona Fire haven't hit the public safety benchmark, they're getting awfully close. And what I mean by that is many of the folks that we're honoring tonight were hired as shift coverage reserves. And within a year and a half of them coming on as reserve components of this organization, they went full time. So over the next 6 to 12 months, these 11 people are going to fall into their true public safety 20-year point. But they all celebrate 20 years with Sedona Fire tonight. So I'm going to go out of order of what is listed on the agenda, or actually I'll follow the agenda and flip back and forth like a squirrel. So we're going to start with Chris Ahern, hired in 2005 as ambulance billing clerk. And she's been a billing specialist with us, and now she's house mom, respectfully. She really helps our EMS and training chiefs keep the wheels on the track, and just really helping with supporting our mission to train and equip our employees with the knowledge they need to move forward and support the organization. And as all of these people, she's an asset to us. And thank you, Chris, for hanging out this long. You got to come up and get your little pin. Because it hurts. I don't want to poke through your shirt. Next we have Captain Mark Benetone. He's not here today. School starting, and so it's what it is. Mark came to us in 2005 as a reserve in August, and then quickly thereafter in September of 2005 he started full time. So next month he'll hit his true 20, the PSPRS 20. I moved up the ranks from firefighter and then promoted to captain in 2014, and he's up at Station 5 and does a great job for us. Next we have Keith Christopherson, and he's an engineer with us. He started again in August of 2005, and he'll be he went full time in 2007, and got his medic certified throughout his career, and is currently a engineer paramedic at Station 4, and again another great asset. So we'll bring Keith up. other than those that shave the gray, you'll see a lot more gray in this crowd than we have in the past. Next we have Kiona, who we all know and love, and she is on the back page. It came to us in August of 2005 as a dispatcher or communication specialist trainee. And then in 08, she transferred to billing and finance, and then 14 billing and payroll, and then 16 payroll and benefits, and then 18 human resource specialist, and then in 22 human resource analyst, and finally resource manager. She's worn a lot of hats in this organization, and the cool thing I get to say about Kiona is every one of them she's performed top notch and has been an asset to our organization. She's currently returning from a trip abroad to Rwanda, so she's not able to make it tonight. Yes, and so clap for Kiona. And then now we have Mr. Brent Johnson. He's a bit of a myth around these parts. Again, hired in August of 2005, full-time in 2007. Moved up the ranks, medic certified in 2007, and currently is an engineer paramedic. And Brent's one of our premier trainers for our technical rescue team, and really is one of the legs of the stool that have brought our team up to where they are today. And he's got a passion for technical rescue, and between him and his cohorts, they've really worked hard to make our team what it is, and set us up to be one of the best technical rescue teams in the state, if not the region or the Southwest. And Brent is not here tonight, so we'll give him a clap. All right, we have Battalion Chief Eric Lewis, hired August of 2005. He was promoted full-time in November of 2005, so a few more months before he hits the golden ticket. 2010 promoted to engineer, and in 14 he was promoted to captain, and then paramedic certified in 2015. And then in 2023, we after our battalion chief promotional test, he was moved to the battalion chief position. He's here with his family, and we're getting filmed. And his daughter there is an award-winning badminton professional. And, she's a golfer. I like razzing her, but come on up, Eric. Next is Joe Pace. Again, August of 2005. Next month will be his PSPRS 20-year anniversary. And in 2007, he was certified as a paramedic. Joe's helped us a ton with our wildland program, and just, I don't know, anybody ever seen him upset? Anyone? He's just happy. And it's just, he was my partner on the ambulance for a long time, and he's just always happy. And so we're, again, glad to have him. We'll give him a clap. And then move on to his big brother, Mike Pace. Again, hired in 2005. August, September, will be his 20th PSPRS anniversary. Obtained his paramedic in 2007. Became an engineer in 2014, and then a captain in 2022. And again, solid guy. I have seen him upset, and yeah. And they're not small fellas, so you gotta be careful with those guys. Clap for Mike. Next is Puyana. John. We call him John. His true name's Alfonso, so we're gonna start calling him that. I think that's good. But John was hired with us again August 2005, full time in January of 2007. I think, and then quickly got his paramedic certification. John, if I'm not mistaken, has the distinction of being the longest serving firefighter paramedic on ambulance 511 in the district. and recently took the opportunity to bid to Station 5 to focus on just some career stuff, and because it's a little bit different pace than being on the ambulance at Station 1. And so I commend him for recognizing the opportunity to do a little reset at a 20-year mark after busting his butt on our busiest ambulance for a long time. So it much appreciated. We have seen him upset and mostly smiley. So he's a great guy. So we'll give it up for Pooh. Not here. And then this guy, I think some of you guys know him. His name's Dave Rodriguez. He's done some stuff here. He's a pretty nice guy. Any questions? No, so Dave's hired in August of 2005, full-time in September of 2006. Engineer in 2008, captain in 2010, and then in 2017, paramedic certification. And I think everybody knows Dave's, I think, is our longest serving local 3690 president since the association started, and has dipped his fingers locally here, regionally with the Verde Valley and across the state to really push force initiatives that help our firefighters out. And it's thankless work, and most of the time you're labeled this or that, but his commitment is commendable, and I appreciate it. So with that, I will toss you this pen. You gotta get up though. All right, I got stand. Okay, last one. Captain Josh Wells. I gotta get to his page. Again, Josh came to us in 2005, August, full-time in September. There's a trend there. September of 2005, we picked up quite a few people. 2006, he obtained paramedic, and then in 2016, he made captain. Josh is a great guy. It's funny that Facebook, he posted the other day, him and his cousin and two brothers are all captains at different organizations around the state of Arizona for fire districts and departments. And I don't know if it was planned, but all well respected in their respective organizations. And he's just a quiet giant, and it keeps us on track, and we appreciate his service. So he's not here, but we'll give him a clap. And now we'll do, I promise.
Proceed on, Chief.
What's that?
Before you proceed on,
Yes.
if you might, I would just like to say thank you to all of you. I know that those 20 years have had good days, not so good days, days when you said, why the hell am I doing this? And days when you go home and feel really good about it. What I want you to know is we are so proud of the work you do every day, and so grateful for what you bring to the Sedona Fire District. 20 years ago, when you all were joining Sedona Fire, was about the time that I got involved with Sedona. And I had no idea of the caliber and skill of the folks that I would have the opportunity to engage with. So just know about, from myself, and opens to any board members who want to join me, bravo and thank you for your service. We appreciate it every day.
More claps?
Yeah.
All right, this of these next five, this is kind of clunky for me because we've had the wonderful opportunity to get to know them over the past few weeks, but as per regulations, wanted to make our formal introduction once again of Elise and Audrey and Christy and Gwen right back there. And the only one that's like a fresh face, stand up, young man. This is John Westbrook, and if you haven't had the opportunity to read the bio that was put out, John started with us Monday. He's a fire inspector, and at first I thought he might be kind of a hit the ground running sort of fella, but We're second guessing that. Yeah. And, no, so John's been a member of Local 3690 for 15 years, 12 years. Comes to us from a neighboring fire department and just brings a ton of experience. So we're excited to have him. I think Kirk's pretty relieved he's got some more help. So welcome aboard. Now we're getting into the business side of things. If anybody wants to take this opportunity to scoot.
Well, I'm just going to say exactly that. So you're all welcome to scoot, but to those of you who are new, welcome. We're glad you're here and you have some great role models. We probably won't be here celebrating your 20 years, but we look forward to hearing about it.
You never know.
Thank you.
Yeah. well,
They have to come back.
yeah. The meeting resumes. Chief Mitsoulas, do we have any members of the public who wish to speak?
We do not.
All right. Then let us move forward with the consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. The July 8th, 2025 regular meeting minutes, the July 14th, 2025 special board meeting minutes, and the July 14th executive session minutes. Can
I move to approve the consent agenda.
do I hear a second?
Move.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have passed the consent agenda. Mr. Boldra, the financial report and updates.
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. So we're going to go over the June and then the July financial report. So start with June financials. You can see for the month, tax levy came in at 442,000. That was about 126,000 over what we had projected for the month. When we get to year to date, you'll see we actually came in a little bit behind, about 136,000, but still less than 1% collection, which is still pretty good. Non-levy revenue was over by 45,000 for the month of June. A lot of that kind of being driven by ambulance and wildland revenues. As far as expenses go for the month, personnel was under budget by $56,000. Buildings and land was over by 72,000. Really the predominant driver of that is we did some painting at Station 3 in June, and that's what was driving that expenditure. Small variance on vehicles and equipment of about $5,600. Communication IT under budget by $5,400. And the managerial at $177,243. Budget variance of $70,000. 2 things. One was the valuation that we had done on the property. And then the other thing was we had paid for essentially this year's some of the benefits for in this year's health insurance in June. So that'll actually get moved forward, but when the reports were done, the accrual hadn't been made yet for that. So looking at the fiscal year for last fiscal year, you'll see total revenue is sitting there at 25.7 million. We were over what we budgeted by $1,295,000. Again, I mentioned what you see in your actual paper report, property tax collection was slightly behind, but non-levy revenue was over by about 1.4 million. And that's a combination of performance on ambulance, wildland, and our investment earnings for last year. On our expenses, we're at 22.1 million in total expenses. We were under budget by 795,000. And really that was for the most part driven by personnel, communication, IT, and managerial expenses. So overall came in over budget on revenues, under budget on expenses, which is what I like to see. Next slide. So as far as percentage, we expended 97% with 3% of the budget unspent last year. And then where that money kind of went to, personnel, our highest expense at 84% of our total expenses. Operations was at 8%, and both communication and managerial expenses were both respectively at 4%. Cash position, we ended the year with 19 million total cash on hand. It's an increase of about 1.5 million over the prior year. think kind of the exciting thing about that is that's about what we had planned to put into capital reserves. But we also had some significant capital expenses last year as well. So we realized that budget performance to be able to not only make our investment in capital assets, have that growth in other assets from 23.5 to 26.8, and increase our cash position, which will help for obviously the rather expensive capital projects we have before us. And then finally, total liabilities actually increased slightly, 33.2 to 33.4. But really what was driving that is we had about 1.2 million of our cash flow sitting in our cash flow due, sitting in our accounts payable, which kind of artificially inflated our AP. So in reality, those total liabilities were actually down about $1 million year over year. Any questions on June or last fiscal year? All right. Going into the July financial report. So we finished up the month. We brought in 107,965, which is about 21,000 over what we budgeted. Just a point of reference, tax bills haven't gone out yet. This is us really collecting on prior year levy. So really these first 2 to 3 months of the fiscal year, especially some of our newer board members, is really us just collecting on historical stuff. But we do look and see what we do collect as a percentage each month, and that's where we kind of base our budget. Non-levy revenue was strong again at 575,000. We're over budget by 243,000, and the same players driving that: ambulance, wildland, as well as our investment earnings. Looking at expenses, in totality for the month of July, we were under budget by 430,000 in our expenses. You can see that's pretty much in every major category. We did have a large variance in personnel, about 297,000, and that was due to timing on receiving our workers' comp invoice for the first quarter. So we usually expect to see that in July. We didn't get that in time for the July reports. Next slide. As far as percentage, we've spent 8% of our budget with 92% remaining. Where our money's gone, personnel is a little higher right now. You looked at all of last year, our personnel was closer to those mid 80s, 84%. We're now pushing that 90%, which is kind of where we start to worry. But I'll say we're artificially inflated, as this is that kind of the first part of the year. We usually don't spend a lot of money on projects in the first month of the year. And so that's why we have wildland deployments, which tend to drive up our personnel costs. So this number is going to be a little skewed, I'd say, for the first quarter of the year. Then operations are at 6%, communication at 4%, and then managerial at 1%. Cash position ended at 18.1 million total cash on hand, increased about 847,000 over the prior year. Other assets stayed up, from 23.2 to 26.9. And then those liabilities kind of, they're flattened out at 33.2 million compared to 33.3. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, can I have a motion to accept the financial report?
I move to accept the financial reports for June and July.
Do I have a second? Well, I'll second. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr.
Thank you very
Bolger.
much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Steve?
All right, operational activities. We'll cover Chief Coyle's slide. He is on the Washington fire. And prior to that, he was on the Woods fire.
No, Laguna Fire.
Laguna fire. Sorry, I'm getting, the Woods was in the village. It's that time of year, and we had, so, as Gabe mentioned, we've had a lot of folks out on assignment. Our Type 3 returned a couple days ago, and our REM should be returning tomorrow if all goes as planned from the Dragon Bravo fire. There aren't any current outstanding orders out there right now. And of course, we had resources supporting the Woods fire. Besides being out on fires this month, Coyle's primary focus was really on onboarding everybody. We got a lot of new faces. So, and then we're continuing to work on policy development and the SharePoint rollout and things like that. So that's kind of a group effort right now. And in operations, really status normal. I'll dig deeper into it as we get into the little different areas. So if there aren't any specific questions, we'll move to the next slide.
Well, you mentioned that we still have some crew out on the Woods fire. How is that going?
Oh, the Woods fire, they're done.
Oh,
But
they're done.
the Dragon Bravo, that's the only, other than Coil being out single resource, we've got the REM crew on which is Rapid Extrication Module, and they're out on the Dragon Bravo fire. And the Red Rock News actually did a really nice write-up on both those units, so. All right, off to you.
Good afternoon. July wasn't that busy. It let up a little bit, but we're just kind of status quo right now. This is you heard tonight, we did put on a new fire inspector, started yesterday, which is great. We need to get out and get more of our inspections done besides just what's required. There's more that has to be done. Every year we need to get into the businesses. So those numbers should start going up with the new person on board. So we're looking forward to that. Didn't have any investigations. Couple of pub events, and I'll get to that real quick. So next slide. Before we do that though, let's go to iRoll. So we have what's called a compliance monitoring. The third party that monitors our fire life safety systems, fire sprinklers, fire alarms, kitchen hood systems, suppression systems, and cleanings. And just looking at the numbers, that's how many in a year basically that are in our district that have to be done. Your sprinklers, your alarms, your hood systems are once a year, your cleanings are twice a year. And without that third party reporting, we would have to review every single one of their documents to see if there's deficiencies. So the third party reporting does that for us. It's no charge to the district. It gets tagged on to the fee that they charge when they go to do this. And I just get notified. They'll do the reporting, they'll review it, they'll send me a deficiency. If it's critical, then I have to follow up and I go out and do my job. So we went to iRoll. We were with Brycer, who was not doing the reporting for us. They'll spin it to us, so I'd still have to look it over again. These folks are doing that for me. They took a huge step out that I don't have to do anymore. So we started up with iRoll, and I want to kudos and thank you to Brian Russell. He's the one that got us rolling on this and did some legwork to get us started. So thank you, Brian, who's not in here. So the events. So we had at the end of the month, it was the first responder camp, and that was through the city of Sedona and Sedona PD. They invited us. It was a 4-day event with some local kids, about 18 kids, ages 8 to 14. And just to kind of mixed up, but kudos, thank you to Station 1. They came here for about 3 hours one day, and first day, and it was with the crews. They did fire extinguisher training. We did all kinds of stuff with them. They flowed water. So they get a feel of what our jobs are here and our lifestyle. They spent time with PD before that to learn the PD side of things. So they spent more time with PD than they did with us, but that's okay.
They enjoy their time with us more.
They enjoyed it, yes. Day 2 was a quick one for us, and that was Station 4's crew. And what they did is they put on a mock EMS drill. So at the hub, and we just had the crews roll in, code 3, just like it was an EMS call, and the kids all stood back and got to see how we do it for real. Loaded a patient up, drove off with them, the whole 9 yards. So that went over really good. And last day was our vehicles were on display for all the kids to roll through for a few hours up at the hub. And of course, everybody loved the ladder truck that was set up. So that went over really well. And I'm sure next year it'll probably be a bigger event. I think it's going to be more, they're going to split the age groups up more. So it's probably going to be a double event. And that's about all the excitement I had for July. If there's any questions.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, I'm going to represent Buzz. He's off managing some opportunities at dispatch. So From the fleet side of things, Mike's continuing to train with Reese and, yeah, just witnessing it, you're seeing Reese a lot more, often out on his own, taking care of tickets and working on stuff and not under the wing of his protector. So he's getting the swing of it, and it's really good to see. We decommissioned 4 vehicles to prepare them for auction, and they'll be going to auction sites. Typically with our light vehicle fleet pickup trucks and things like that, we use a government website. We discovered at conference actually some opportunities where there's some fire truck remanufacturers. They go in and redo fire trucks, and they've built some robust programs to price out and purchase used fire trucks. And so we're looking at what sort of pricing they're offering versus what the general prices for auction vehicles are going for, trying to maximize the profit for the district. And then brought a couple vehicles into service, one being the fleet truck, and then the other one an additional telecom vehicle. And out of the frustrating part, we asked the manufacturer of our Type 1 fire engines, the 2 that we received last year. We have one budgeted to purchase this year. And we said, hey, to the bolt, the same spec as the ones we just bought for $750, what's the current price? Said it's gonna be right over $1 million. But the good news is that they've gone from 48 months down to 37 months for builds. So that's a relatively good news, I guess. You know, knocked a year off of it.
A good trajectory.
And then Buzz has been working with IT. We've got some mandates from the state. We currently have a waiver, but you have to have a mechanism to physically, by statute, physically track your ambulance miles. Because I believe it was born from some accusations that some primarily private ambulance companies were doctoring their mileage. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but ultimately we found a product that is hosted through Verizon that we're evaluating to see if it'll be the best solution for us. And all the vehicles have cameras facing the crews to watch activity, things like that. Labor's in full support. Just kidding, Dave. No cameras, no cameras. But they tried to sell it hard.
I was like, they will tar and hang me if I had those cameras there.
And then in the ambulance world, the remount world of taking our box and putting it on a new chassis, the financial benefits are waning on that process. And we're getting to the point where we're at second remount for some of our apparatus. So Buzz is currently working with staff to evaluate. You know, we haven't bought a new ambulance in a while. It might be time to introduce a new one to the fleet to start a new cycle of remounts. And so everything is just exponentially increased in price. So we have an opportunity to have some time to look through this. So we're really digging in and seeing what's best practice.
Hey,
And
Chief.
yes,
So, do we get 2 or 3 uses out of a coach?
they state that 2 remounts is generally best practice. And one is just wear and tear on the wiring harnesses of because you do a double remount on a box and that thing has got 400,000 to 500,000, 600,000 road miles after a couple remounts. And so there's that. And it gets to the point where the technologies in the box, you need to upgrade so much that it's just the cost efficiency isn't there
My
anymore.
thought process is, okay, if we're gonna, if they're gonna reman a box at round 2, and if we're, $25,000 away from a whole new
Yeah.
coach, then, how am I supposed to amortize that
Yep.
after 5 years in and the network's breaking down? And
That's what we're looking at and evaluating some different builders because we locked into a specific builder 18 years ago, and the industry's changed, and are they still the best company for us? And so it's a process, but it's a thoughtful one, and just looking at the different opportunities.
appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. And then with EMS, doing a lot of work in interfacility transfers, building partnerships, and NAH is doing a lot more training with us, and it's low to no cost. And kind of a first that Buzz introduced for us is we have these RBO committees, relationship by objective, that go through and change policy and process with how we do things. And one of them is that he's currently working on is how we respond to backcountry rescues. And our medical director, Dr. Lotz, is actually asked to sit in a committee, and it's a first for us. So it's pretty cool because for him, he's learning, he's getting a behind the scenes view of what and how, what we do and how we make decisions. And he's actually adding some really good value to the conversation. So it's been a good deal. We just introduced, we've got a tracking system called PS Tracks that tracks our preventative maintenance and our maintenance needs on our apparatus. And we just integrated another one of their product lines to track our narcotics. And so we have a more robust narcotics tracking system in-house, and with some new policies that rolled out to the floor. A ton of upcoming training with all our partners, Guardian Air, Northern Arizona Healthcare, and Native Air. And the air ambulance companies invest a lot of time and money into offering trainings for partnering agencies at no cost. And it adds value, and it gets us to know each other better. So it's a pretty neat deal. And then our revamp of our public CPR classes is almost complete. And Buzz wanted me to offer up to you all, if the board would like a CPR class, we can work with you to schedule it if it's something you desire.
Yes.
Yeah, all right. So I'll do that offline. And then still no real movement at the state. At the federal level, there's some, Buzz went to a conference a couple weeks ago, and as we know, nothing's landed yet, but Medicaid and Medicare changes can have a drastic impact on us, the trickle down. So, and the industry's kind of up in the air right now with what direction things are going to go. So he's just really getting much better versed in how that system works, so we can be on top of it. And how Gabe's folks, with their client group, are very knowledgeable about what's going on, because it's not a Sedona fire thing. It has the potential to impact, non-levy revenue for all the districts in the state. So something we're tracking. And then the state Department of Health still hasn't normalized, and I don't think they still don't have a director. And when the last director left, Miss Garcia, there was a vacuum that sucked a lot of her mid and lower level folks. And you don't fill empty holes when there's no leadership at an organization. You have to have that first. And so we're doing the best we can. GIS, Matt Spinelli's been working a lot with, he's kind of he left, but he's a partner builder, and he's been working a lot with City of Sedona and Cottonwood and other regional GIS folks, because there's a lot of redundancy in what they're all tasked with doing. And, in some cases they may be all developing the same map for the same reason. And so they're just really getting to know what each individual is tasked with, hopefully maximize resources, and maybe if we can have an opportunity to do more with less, they could put out a lot more product. And so it's kind of exciting. We're evaluating this all our softwares right now, but this one's happening tomorrow, the one that produces these slides. And we're going to be hosting a one-day ESRI GSI summit for regional users in October. So that's kind of cool. We'll be hosting a GIS summit here.
Has the date been set for that?
No, not that I'm aware of. I'll find out. And then evaluating all our softwares. We've got two different softwares that perform similarly to dispatch our crews. And without pretending to know what I'm talking about, the way that the information kicks out from the computer-aided dispatch center at the dispatch center, the way that these different softwares grab the information, just little tweaks can cause 30, 45-second delays. And then we've recently discovered Pulse Point, which was we initially partnered for a community response. Pulse Point has built a substantially more robust system that if it is as they are billing it, it could replace 2 of our other softwares and just become our sole source. So, and that, as you can imagine, is not a quick 2-week, take a look at it and see. And then to further complicate that evaluation, we're including, private ambulance company, all of the Verde Valley Fire Agencies, and then the Cottonwood Dispatch Center. So, it's a purposely slow process to ensure all the partnering agencies have a level of comfort with whatever we land on, so that, we can maximize the value of the product. And that's relationship building. And then, that is Buzz's report. I went over my promised 5 minutes. My apologies. Next one, Jordan.
All right, good afternoon. I see that we have a full agenda, so I'll try to keep this brief. I was just talking to Gabe before the meeting started. It's kind of the lull before the storm, if you will, calm before the storm for training. So during the summer months, as I've expressed in the past, we try to do a lot of our computer-based training when it's hot outside. So we're working through the ISO, OSHA training that's required of our firefighters and staff every year. We did complete the venomous reptile training that Captain Rodriguez heads up. I did mention that last board meeting. I was disappointed I didn't see any of you there. We extended the offer, but we, I believe, got all of our last 3 hires now complete. So 10 to 15 individuals went through that training, and I believe everybody on the floor now has gone through that training or close to it. So as I mentioned, until Captain Rodriguez took it over, in the 20 plus years I'd been here, we'd never had formalized training on that, even though it's a requirement. So kudos to him, getting that done. And it's a good training. It's always entertaining. And when we do the next one, I'll make sure to invite you again. So even if you just come and watch.
Please do.
And when you do, I'll make sure I show up for one.
All right. All right. So, but thanks to Captain Rodriguez for getting that done. It is valuable training. We joke about it, but it is valuable training, and it's good to have that experience when you're going out and handling these snakes. So quarterly blue card training was complete. Chief Lewis, who you met this evening, heads that up. We got our quarterly blue card training for this quarter complete. So kudos to him and getting that implemented and staying consistent with that training. For those that are not aware, blue card is our command and control on emergency incidents. So that's the foundation and the platform we use for incident commanders and for the staff on those incidents. Training plan. So the beginning of September is State Fire School. I believe it's the 52nd or 53rd State Fire School. We had a number of individuals apply. We'll be sending 7, I believe, down to State Fire School, with the majority of those participating in fire apparatus hydraulics training or pump theory training. I'm getting ready for our spring assessment center for engineers. So it's kind of the year of the engineer this year. So a lot of training is planned and created around those individuals that are prepping for that test. So 7 of them will be attending the State Fire School beginning of September. I mentioned the blue card quarterly training. Right now, Chief Lewis is the actual only certified instructor that we have for blue card right now. So we'll be sending an individual the 2nd week in September to get certified, and 1 additional individual in November to get certified as a blue card instructor to give Chief Lewis some assistance for those blue card trainings and during the Captains and Battalion Chief Assessment Center when those scenarios are created. Engineers Academy. So we met this morning. Believe I mentioned last board meeting, and we're going to host an Engineers Academy the end of September. We opened up that application period. I was expecting 10 to 12 individuals. We received 17 individuals that are interested in attending a 3-day academy. We'll be hosting on the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th of September. So we met this morning. We're going to make an attempt to get all 17 into that class, along with 4 instructors. So 21 individuals. It's going to be a heavy lift, but we're going to get creative and see if we can't get everybody into that academy that has expressed interest. We've got some backup plans if we're not able to secure coverage for that, and we'll work through that. So within the next week, we'll have a pretty good idea of how many individuals we'll be able to send to that class and provide coverage for.
Do they have to have completed their task book?
They do not. To go to the Engineers Academy, they do not have to have a completed task book. Now, if it comes down to a selection criteria, there's going to be different tiers of individuals, and a completed task book will be one of those one of those tiers, one of the requirements for tiers, but to test and to go through an engineer position task book evaluation to move up, yes, they have to have that completed, but for the academy, no, they do not.
Just curious.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good question. All right, wellness activities. So we did the functional movement screenings for operations. With that, we had Solve Global, which is a organization out of Phoenix. That's a benefit of our new health insurance. They've got physical therapists and PT techs that work for them. Really work with fire departments around the state as far as their own functional movement screenings, areas of concern individuals may have, how to correct that, exercises they provide. They came up here and screened our individuals after we ran them through our functional movement screening. They ran them through theirs if they wanted to. 50 of our individuals chose to go through that additional screening process, which was great. And I actually just got the summarization from Solve Global this morning as far as a lot of the injuries they saw or areas of concern minus names that they saw from our employee group, provided a great recommendations on exercises we should encourage our individuals to do. And they want to start collaborating more with our peer fitness evaluators and our peer fitness committee. So they've reached out. They're going to start helping provide some content for our quarterly newsletters. So I'm trying to hook the peer fitness committee up with the Solve Global so they can collaborate on some more of that beneficial information to our staff. So I'm looking forward to that, excited about that, and may have some increased training opportunities for our committee members as well to increase their knowledge and capabilities to help our staff out preventing injuries. And then last, just this morning, one of our peer fitness committee members is on the preventative maintenance and repair side. If you remember, a few years ago, we used to contract with an outside agency that would come in and do the maintenance on our exercise equipment. We have somebody internally doing that now. So he was just going around to the stations today and replacing treadmill belts and everything else. So it's nice to have that internal and be able to have that face-to-face communication with them. If a problem arises, we get a quick fix on it versus waiting 2 or 3 months now. So it's proving beneficial. He was just here at Station 1 this morning getting all that done. So hopefully that met your 5 minutes.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
Any questions?
I covered about 50%.
The Solve Global.
Yes, ma'am.
What is that, a private company or what
You
is
know
it?
what? I think they are private.
So they're the PFFA, excuse me, the PFFA Trust, who administrates our healthcare benefits. They package these benefit packages, Blue Cross Blue Shield and then they vision, dental, all that. And a piece of their package is the Solve Global. It's a partnership they developed with this physical therapy organization, and they focus really on identification and preventative physical therapy and analysis. And whereas a lot of products focus on post-injury recovery, that while they'll help you with that as well, they really focus on a lot of the stuff is here's a different stretch you can do, because most of your employees have IT band issues or they have tight shoulders. And if you focus on these stretches, and then we can correlate that with our work comp reporting and say, we're getting a lot of shoulder injuries. Let's incorporate this into a monthly newsletter or into workouts. And so that's kind of how they help us with that.
And a byproduct of them is that as an individual, I can reach out to them and seek guidance and care, and it's free of charge on my own. So while we offered the screening for our employees after our functional movement screening, I can call them at any time, let them know, hey, I'm having some shoulder pain, and I can actually do a site visit or a Zoom visit, televisit, and they can provide some of that care, preventative exercise and motion, range of motion exercises for me, free of charge because of the insurance.
This is wrapped into what is accessible through the insurance.
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
And then what is it, bi-weekly, they send you a wellness email, because
Yeah, the check-in.
it's a check-in. And I would argue most of the people in this room, I have a hitch in my giddy up, it's just because of this. And that stinking email reminds me, hey, to do a quick self-check. And they had some questions, and it's like, all right, yeah, it has been bothering me for 3 months. I thought it was a couple weeks. Maybe I ought to get it looked at.
So you fill out that survey, and then they'll contact you back and do a follow-up with you, and then provide any additional information or assistance that they can.
Great.
Anything else? All right. Thank you.
All right, we'll go to the next slide. there's incidents by type. Shocking, EMS year over year is leading the charge. And month over month. And then false alarms, that's the one I want to park on this month and give kudos to Kirk because it's we'll have a hotel or a commercial business trend one month where they either have foregone maintenance or they duct tape the thing or they don't have the people to do it. And then Kirk does a really good job of monitoring these false alarm calls when we get out. We'll drive all the way out to Seven Canyons in the middle of the night, 3 nights in a week. Kirk's like, hey, something's going on. He'll go out and work with those folks to fix the issue because, you know, especially like a Seven Canyons or an Enchantment or some of the areas outside edges of the district, you know, it takes our units out of the center of town. And when we have 3 shifts, it's difficult sometimes, you know, oh, you just got a call for a false alarm. You don't realize there was 4 of them this week, but Kirk does a really good job of tracking that stuff and respectfully and thoughtfully works with the business owners to correct the issues. And we do have a fee that's associated with it, but we've been very generous with folks. We've had a couple occupancies I can remember over the years where like we were supplementing, they were not having to spend money on maintenance because we were augmenting their stuff by fixing their system ad hoc and kind of the new mechanisms. It's a better environment for our crews because, you know, our guys are here to serve, but we want to maximize as much as possible the sleep rest, the work rest cycle. And it's like when you know that they're just not maintaining stuff, but every Tuesday night at 3 a.m, the alarm goes off. That's a problem. And so I commend you on that. Next slide. And then here's station 1's winning the race again. This slide, while the numbers may slightly change year over year, month over month, this is how we will trend. Our executive staff and some of our captains are getting pretty nerdy with AI. And we're recognizing there's some mechanisms to really further evaluate. You know, our resources are distributed appropriately to serve the totality of this community, but using these trends and technology, you know, may afford us some different opportunities down the road. So it's kind of exciting. But again, going back, Station 1's winning the race again. Next slide. And I want to be clear, they wouldn't have it any other way. And there are regular opportunities we call it bidding out of Station 1. And those guys, we made them wear concrete boots because they don't want to leave Station 1. So it's not that we don't recognize that they're busier. They want to be here for that reason. So, and here's response volume for, you know, again, Station 1's 44%, just another way to represent those calls. Next slide. And then the dispatch handling time, getting into some of the different asks. So median dispatch notified alarm handling time is gone down. The median was up in the 40s and it's gone down a bit. So, and dispatch is down a couple employees again. And so that one's in perfect world, the call handling time, there's the human factor. And with static long-time employees, they're quick, but then as you constantly have people coming in to train, you know, those numbers will change. One thing dispatch is focusing on right now is evaluating different softwares to expedite some of those processes. And then back to AI again, there's a lot of buzz in the emergency services world about AI doing a lot of the prompting stuff for these calls in the future and expediting it even further, but that'll be in the far future. Median turnout time for our crews, 1 minute and 34 seconds. We like to say that's like under 2 is ideal. And in total response times, again, I'm not a huge fan of this metric because if we have 3 far out calls, then that could skew the numbers with our call volume. If we were running 5,000 calls a month, it wouldn't be that much of an impact, but still our response times are well below industry standard. And so we're doing good there. And then our unit travel times are great. So, again, those are something we keep a careful eye on. And this year we're going to kind of nerd out on, right now it's kind of the quote slow season with the heat, but as we get into the fall, we'll keep an eye on how those travel times change, and that could inform decisions when residents of the city ask, say, is that new roundabout helping you guys out? And we can have the data say, no, it's not, or yes, it is. And so that's kind of what we'll use that for. And so we'll see how that goes. And then, again, ambulance response times are very similar to the engines, and then the road times are staying pretty static. I mean, down a few minutes, but our guys are driving the speed limit, and that's important. And then it's just, but again, this is another one that really I keep a careful eye on, because that unit's not available to help our residents for an hour and 17 minutes. And so if that grows, then that's a trigger for us to look at another ambulance or add additional staffing. So that one for me is an important measure right there.
Do you have a marker where you'd need to do that?
I don't. I think we'll look at some industry modeling, and then and there's stuff out there, but a lot of it's like everything, there's layers, right? So a lot of systems in the metropolitan areas, that time is skewed because the ambulance is standing in a hallway for an hour waiting to get a bed, and we don't have that issue here. So the standard metric used nationwide doesn't apply to us necessarily. So some of it'll be philosophical, right? I think for us, the measure would be how much more often are we having to call an ambulance from the Verde Valley to come up here? I think that will be a benchmark for us. If it increases to X amount of times, then that might be the time we look at it. But a lot of the industry standardized measures of that don't work for us, because thankfully we don't have really bad wall times. That's the term, is wall time, because the medics are standing against the wall waiting for a nurse. But yeah, it's 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours sometimes down in Phoenix for them to turn a patient over. All right. And then we have a thank you letter from the Pine Flats Property Owners Association. And we provided them with a dumpster and for wildfire prevention. And they wanted to say thank you, and they donated $500 to the district to be used towards our expenses with wildland fire prevention. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Wow, that's really
Yeah.
super. That's awesome.
Yeah, they're a neat little neighborhood. And then but that's my brief report. Most of the stuff I've been working on is going to come up in our discussion possible actions for the month. So I figured we'd just talk about it then.
Great. Okay, so any questions, anything further for the chief on his report? Then let's move forward with the discussion of the memorandum of understanding for the Administrative and Support Employee Association, ACEA. And you should have received a copy by email, but also there's a copy in the gray folder on the table.
So I'm going to have a little place to park for a minute, and then I'm going to, as you review each individual MOU, I'm going to cover some of the notable changes to the MOUs. But first and foremost, I've been a part of the MOU process for a long time, both sides of the table. It's been collaborative, it's been contentious, it's been screaming, it's been yelling, it's been handshakes. This year was a pleasure. And really the intent with labor leadership and myself was to have a thoughtful approach, and some of our focus strategies were to maintain Sedona Fire's position as an attractive organization to work for, one that promotes recruitment and retention, one that is competitive, and one that has an environment that supports our membership. And I think the totality of the agreed upon changes to benefits and wages do that and accomplish that goal. In addition to that, I'm sorry, I thought I muted that thing. In addition to that, we really talked a lot about succession planning, and tonight was a great example. You know, the stack of folks hitting 20. Most of the executive team is in or going to be in the drop in the next few months, and that puts a 5-year expiration date on their career here. And we're in a position to and being on a fire truck is pretty fun. And so the one thing where we're deficient in is preparation for some of our mid-management, battalion chief, division chief roles. And so I think labor and management both recognize that, and we're working towards some things to accomplish that. So beyond the wages and benefits piece, and this leans more heavy into 3690, but a lot into ASCA as well, is a lot of the RBOs we're establishing for this next year focus on defining strategies to enhance opportunities for our folks to prepare for the next level. And some initial discussions with Elise about some work we've done in the past with task books and administration to show the path of movement for non-operational personnel. And then for operational personnel, I think we're making great strides, and I'm excited. But specific to the ASCA contract, some of the big changes were we evaluated industry sick and vacation leave accrual rates, and we made a small adjustment upward for our administrative folks based on our comparables. If you've seen the sign at the front office with some changes to office hours, that was an ask from administration. And I didn't fully understand it or appreciate it at first, and their thoughtful approach to explaining it to me made a lot of sense. It gives us an hour it bookends the work day, an hour in the front end, an hour on the back end, to coach and collaborate, to button up projects, to do some self-learning, do some things like that, and just enhance the product we provide without compromising customer service. And then it was a thoughtful approach to, again, providing the best customer service we can, both internally and externally. So that was one of the asks. The next one I'm embarrassed about. They identified the fact that our telecom employees and our fleet employees received the same uniform allowance as our administrative staff. And I never realized that because Mike just kept his head down and kept going. But I don't know if anybody could argue against the mechanic getting a little bit more for a uniform allowance, seeing as he burns through a t-shirt a week spilling oil on it, and they get quite expensive. So we made those adjustments, and then just a thoughtful approach. Bob Moats, the telecom director, and then Mike, I asked them both to develop a kit for our new hires, because the thought was, we get a new hire uniform allowance and you buy the stuff, but a new guy or gal can't come in and fully kit up a foul weather gear kit to be on Snebley Hill in the middle of a snowstorm their first year with the money that we gave them. So we have an initial issue, if we will, modeling what we do for operations. And so made some modifications there. They're lower cost initiatives, but they're employee need driven. And so I think it was important. And then with the uniform allowance, we adjusted all of support staff's uniform allowances slightly to accommodate inflation and the cost of materials and things like that. And then our administrative employees, as part of their contract, are allowed time for physical training during the workday, a certain amount per week. And then off duty we offer a small stipend to help with the gym membership. And so we up that a little bit based on current trends and costs. So that's the bulk of the ASCA contract changes over year. And then a lot of the other changes to the MOU over the last one were really just cleaning up the document. A lot of the sections referenced policy A, section B, subsection Q, and it's like, let's just put employee handbook, so that, because if we didn't, as we update the employee handbook, which is next step in a couple months, we'd have to come back to the board and ask for an addendum to the MOU. So we just said a reference employee handbook. So a lot of it was just cleaning it up. And that's the gist of the ASEA MOU.
Questions for the chief?
Not yet. You're the next one and then I have some questions.
And Chris is here as a representative of ASEA. If you have any questions specific to her, he's available.
So I was thinking we would do the MOUs individually.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so ASEA and then do the other one. So questions on this MOU? So I will make a motion that we approve the memorandum of understanding with the Administrative Support and Employee Association for the period July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2027. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. We have a new MOU for ASAE. Okay. Chief, on to the MOU for the IAFF Local 3690.
Okay, I crossbred my intro for both MOUs in the previous motion, so I'll just get into what changes were made for the IFF MOU.
Okay.
Again, we cleaned up language referencing specific policy. We did a slight sick leave adjustment based on industry analysis for operational members. Analyzing the unique skill sets of our paramedics and evaluating current industry trends and stipends, we adjusted the paramedic stipend. We added a stipend for technical rescue team members and a to be determined addition for specialty instructors. More to come on that when it's developed. But and then we just that's the gist of the changes. And then I really the framework for the RBOs. I'm excited about it. We made a big commitment to having some RBOs that really focus on the weeds, and one of them is healthcare. And we just last year went to a new healthcare provider, and the desire is not to go look for another healthcare provider. However, and these are just spitball examples to kind of drive the point home. Securus, our workers' compensation pool is made up of a board of fire chiefs that manage it. It's our work comp for us, and the PFFA trust is modeled in a similar fashion. And I would argue that, in fact, Dave's on their board. And the advantage for the fire districts is the organizations are, one, they're a lot more nimble, and two, there's not shareholders to make happy. The more we do to reduce costs, the more we reduce costs to our employers, and for both agency or both healthcare systems. And we want to shotgun some ideas for our healthcare, and because while larger healthcare administrators or healthcare companies, aren't going to have an ear for suggestions from a fire district necessarily, I think we have that opportunity with PFFA trust and a relationship. And like one example I threw out to labor is, we don't do as good a job as I want to do to support our retirees' healthcare. It is costly, and it is costly for the member. And is there opportunities for us to assist with that? Well, there's only so much money in the pot. So one thing I brought up, and this is just a discussion point, is when we hire a 19-year-old young man or woman who goes to the doctor once a year because we make them, and they don't have any medical issues. And what if we looked at, instead of our plans, we had another plan that was a catastrophic insurance for when they wrecked their dirt bike, and we give them a little bit more for their healthcare savings account to build that up as a young adult. And those catastrophic insurance plans are pennies on the dollar. And that would give us the bandwidth to transition some dollars potentially to support the retirees better. So just really, and that's one of many examples, but just really diving into the details of healthcare with labor to educate ourselves and to look at, you know, the benefit's not stagnant, but it is what it is. And we have an opportunity with how the trust is set up to potentially, you know, maybe we come up with something that benefits the totality of the pool, not just Sedona Fire, but to put energy towards evaluating that. That's one example of an RBO I'm excited about that labor is supporting. Another one is we have had a captain's 2 position, and it's been programmed into the budget. We don't have any captain's 2s, and we don't have a policy procedure for it. But it follows some of the recommendations of the National Fire Academy and education and experience as you move up ranks. And the idea is it's a position that floats between captain and battalion chief. And how it will manifest, I don't know. You know, it might turn into an opportunity for us to have a captain 2 that more regularly supports the battalion chief in some fashion, to be determined. So one, operationally, it enhances opportunities to train and increased efficiencies. But then 2, it gives us a mechanism for us to better prepare folks for that battalion chief position. So we're going to dive into an RBO on that and develop strategies for that position. And then a number of other things that relate to succession planning. As Jordan mentioned, I don't stay up at night worrying about getting people to drive our fire trucks because we got stacks of people that want to do that. But as we get into the captain's ranks, battalion chiefs, and executive management, to my previous point, riding on a fire truck's pretty fun. And you know, what do we do to collaboratively energize those up and comers to want those positions? And it's not unique to Sedona Fire. It's an industry problem. Frankly, it's a nationwide problem in all industry, you know, and when a diesel mechanic can make $150 an hour, you know, that's a wonderful living. You know, why go into a management position? Frankly, I mean, it's not all sugar and flowers. So
Why did you tell me that about 18 years ago?
yeah, I know, but
Because now I found myself back on the floor and I've never been happier.
yeah. And so, and it may be what it's what keeps me up at night, because we've got regional agencies outside testing for captains and battalion chiefs. And I from a cultural standpoint, I don't think that fits us. And I think we have the talent in-house if given the right tools and the right, you know, view of how to get there. We have people in-house that want to do it. So that's one of the big focuses with the labor group is this isn't the big smart DCs and fire chiefs sitting in a room making these decisions. We're just going to thoughtfully integrate those folks to make sure we're building the organization they're going to want to work at in 20 years. And when we're not here. But that's the gist of that, the IFF MOU. I don't think I missed anything.
Questions for the chief or for
Corey's got one.
David?
Well, mine is more just I guess you put it in the category of comment that very aware of all of the work that's gone into this for both the ASEA and the IAFF. And as a board member, we vote to approve, but we really rely on you, Chief, and everybody else who's involved to do your very best. To look out after for the safety and the well-being of the employees, but also to manage SFD in a fiscal manner. And those are where the 2 roads meet, and just appreciate all that's gone into it by everybody. So it's more of a thank you, but also a comment that we really, as a board member, I really trust you to do your best, and that what we have before us to approve is a product of that.
But I want to say thank you to the board, because as you mentioned, I'm sort of the mediator in this process. And The MOUs in the state of Arizona between a labor organization and a governing board are not a have to. They're, in my opinion, should do. And what it does for us is it gives us a structured guideline to follow to ensure to the best of our ability that labor and management are collaborating. And second to that, the more critical to me is that we create a history of having a document that is strong enough to outlive, a governing board or a fire chief or a labor president, and ours was established in 2005, I believe, or 3. I mix up the numbers. It's resolution 2005-3. And that's an accomplishment. There's a lot of fire districts around the state that don't have these recognized contracts, and it matters because it says to our folks, we have a culture of mutual respect and a culture of working together, and it's clearly defined in this document. So thank you.
Chief, I got to tell you, I'm very heartened to hear that succession planning is beginning to find its way into the culture. Now, as you know, I've been on both sides of labor on the federal side of the house, and it is a vast, empty, inky gulf.
Yeah.
To hear that, labor, I'm very heartened, I'm very, very grateful labor's coming on board for that or collaborating accordingly, because we don't begin to inspire our young leaders now and coach them and do what is necessary, at least morally, in my opinion, as Gen Xers, but we don't get hardcore into bringing these people aboard and nurturing them into being leaders. I know that I don't want to be in an assisted living facility and be at the hands of somebody that I didn't, at least be a part of assisting them in making their dreams come true.
Yes.
So thank you all very much.
Other comments or questions? So I will make a motion that we accept approve the memorandum of understanding for the International Association of Firefighters Local 3690 Sedona chapter and the Sedona Fire District. All in favor? Aye.
Second.
Oh, second. Thank you. I'm racing along today.
Second that.
Okay, great. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Say nay. We have an MOU.
Good.
Yeah. And let me, I want to echo what Cory said. There is, I know, a lot of historic work behind this, but also a lot of current work and collaboration. And it's very valuable, and it makes Sedona Fire District the district that we're all so proud of. So thank you to you all, to the chief. Thank you for bringing us a great MOU for both organizations.
You're here.
Yeah. All right. Chief, we have an authorization here, and I think there's a typo in it. Because it talks about dividing property on Jordan Road.
Yes, that will be an amendment.
Okay.
Forrest, that is on me. Read it 3 times. We all read it.
You
Yes,
just, you just
we all-
got Jordan Road.
Well,
We all
we-
have it.
Yeah,
Fine.
we have, Mr. Wooding did the thank for that, because when we were talking, he said something about Jordan Road. I just whizzed on, it was Forest Road. So, anyway, all right, so we need to amend that. Do you want to talk about what it is you would like us to do?
Yes, so we currently own the property at Forest Road where our Station 4 sits. Above the annex building, we have a parking lot that we currently have a lease agreement with the city of Sedona. Staff has evaluated that property and future needs, and we can't find a space where we'd ever benefit from maintaining ownership of that particular parking lot piece. As if you may recall, we attempted to sever and transfer it to the city for a discounted purchase price for Jordan Road, and they weren't interested in November, December, whenever it was we met. So I kind of put it on the back burner, but then recently a couple of different investors solicited me and said, hey, what are you guys doing with that property? And so their point is there's an interest in said property. What my desire is to is for the board to authorize me to take the necessary steps to prepare it to be surplus property, which we will then at a future board meeting vote to make it surplus property if you so approve tonight for me to take the steps. And that involves having the property surveyed and going to the county and having it assigned a separate parcel number. And then it can be approved as surplus property. We would then publish in the paper within 6 days twice, and then it goes to public auction. If it were, that's the entirety of the process if it were to be approved. But we did have that lot isolated and appraised, and it was in the high 400s. And
I think just to be clear, this is what the city calls parking lot 8.
8 or 1, I forget the
I think
number.
it's 8.
Correct. It's across from the parking. Now, so tonight the ask is to give me authority to sever and assign it a parcel number. If it is approved tonight, then I will come back to the board with permission to surplus property and then initiate discontinuing the contract with the city, which the language in the city, they lease it currently says, 90 days notice either party. And as a point of reference, and I appreciate the fact that this will go to public auction and anybody can buy it. But the folks that have taken the initiative to reach out to us and inquire about it have stated they are more than willing to work with the city to accommodate any current lease agreements while they construct a parking garage, and will be good neighbors. That being said, if somebody unknown could come in and swoop it up. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is I think it's important to do this. Even if we maintain it and decide not to surplus it, we'll still have it assigned a separate parcel number in perpetuity if we ever decide to do something, and it'll save this process. And at the end of the day, I think it's an opportunity to recover some of the costs of Station 4's build.
Is there a minimum bid that would be?
So
required?
per statute, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Whittington, the fire district can direct me, the board can direct me to, we can only go to 75% of appraised value. That's what we can drop it to. So essentially the board could direct me to start the auction at a full appraised value or at 75% appraised value, or however I'm directed to go with it. But maximum 75% of appraised value is what we can go down to. We can't do the dollar exchange or all the wives' tales that are out there. It's.
And I'm sorry, the appraised value is,
I gotta double check. I think it was 480 if I'm not mistaken.
Chief, what's the amount of money that the city compensates us on the lease contract?
I believe it's $2,750 annually.
$2,750 annually?
Yes.
Well, just to make sure, 2,700.
I will confirm that, but last read, that was my interpretation.
I would say that's a significant bargain.
Well, and to be clear, when that agreement was made many moons ago, the city did do the necessary improvements to said property, the asphalt and the signage and all that. So they invested in that property. But I would agree with you.
Thanks, Chief.
Other question. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Chief, I'm wondering what do you foresee as the timeline if we as a board approve getting that parcel separated from the rest of the parcel? Just because we have, what I'm hearing is we have some interested investors,
Yes.
and it's good to strike while the iron is hot. How long will it take for that process?
So again, anybody will be able to access and bid on this property, but those that have expressed interest have made it clear that their iron's sitting in the fire and it's going to be hot for a while because this project isn't a start next week thing. So it's conceptual right now. And but as far as I cannot speak to the process with the county to separate, I have a surveyor lined up that's done a lot of work in Uptown that's ready to launch. But as far as the county's process, I've never done it and I can't get a straight answer on. In my brain, we bring in a surveyed property and they do the thing in GIS and put a number on it, but I don't know if that's how it works.
And you're saying the county is
That is my understanding.
not the city.
It's the city is zoning and then the county assigns the parcel numbers.
Mm.
So it'd be Coconino County.
The county. Again.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
That's better.
Just
Yeah,
delightful.
better. Any other questions of the chief on this? Okay, I will entertain a motion to authorize the chief to initiate action to divide the district-owned property located at Station 4 on Forest Road in Coconino County and take all necessary actions to prepare said property for public surface sale pursuant to ARS 48-805 subsection B18, including contracting with professional services and engaging in a legal public sale process.
So I want to just clarify, are we also approving engaging in the sale process?
It's to prepare.
My interpretation is by stating engaged in the legal public sale process, that then means the first step is for me to bring to you the proposal to surplus the property.
I do have another question.
Okay.
And that's, are we if we vote on this, are we required to sell it after, there's, the bids come in?
No, the intention of tonight's discussion and action is to make it available for sale, but it will not be to that point until you then vote to make it surplus, and then we go to the bidding process.
And at the point that there is a bidding process, are we required to accept one of those bids?
After that? No, you can reserve any number you want. I assume you're gonna reserve at least 75,000 or 75%, but you could reserve another number if you wished.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, could I have a second on the motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor of the motion? That's what I'm repeating. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? That you're authorized, chief, to
Do
do
the
the
stuff.
preparation. Yes, move forward. Okay, the next item on the agenda, I've added to the agenda because I felt it was important for the board and the public to be updated on this. A few months ago, we had a query about employees who have Teslas, plugging them into our fire stations and using power, which is basically and could be considered misappropriation of public funds. So the chief and I have talked about it. He had done a fair amount of research on this. And in agreement with the unions, we have agreed, first of all, let me back up one thing. We had been, as a district, had been looking at having publicly available charging units at our stations. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful in the grant activity, and we did not we're not able to purchase the chargers. So what we agreed that made the most sense was to charge individuals who use our power a fee. And working with the APS numbers, working with folks who know about Teslas and charging, the number was developed of $350 annually to be charged at $175 every 6 months as a payroll deduction item for those individuals using the chargers. These funds will be deposited in the general fund, and the general fund is where we pay our APS bill. So the funds are going into the account that to be used to pay the APS bill. So I just wanted to really make sure that the board was aware of this, and that also we're going to continue to seek funding to get chargers available, to be publicly available. Part of the plans for Station 4 is chargers at Station 4, the new Station 4. But in the meantime, this is what we will be doing to ensure that there is no question about the use of charging at our stations. So any questions?
How did we get to that figure?
Ooh. So, many months ago, we were contacted frequently on a regular basis by an individual. So one of our captains, John King, who's an EV guru, if you will, I conferred with him, and we invested in a $30 kilowatt hour meter. And I asked a couple of our EV users to clock it for 48 hours. We got the kilowatt hour usage for a 110 volt circuit charging an EV at a station. It's level 1 charging is what it is how it's rated. We then looked at the aggregate rate charged by APS to Sedona Fire, which we discovered 14 different accounts and 3 or 4 different mechanisms and how APS charges. So that was a discovery we're working on. And
Welcome to AP.
yeah, it was so all over the place. Long story short, I went to the city, evaluated what their current meters charge, and it's 12 cents a kilowatt hour. So using our usage over 48 hours and the amount that the city charges, that's where the dollar amount came from. Now, the current plan, the current hope is we get a bulk discount and we integrate the chargers for Station 4. We basically purchase chargers for Station 1 and Station 4 and 6 with the ones for 4, hoping we get a bulk discount price if we don't get grant funding, which is currently closed from APS. So that's in the works. And the standard of practice for the city is they install level 2 chargers, and they as part of their employee package, the first 4 hours are free, then it starts charging. But the difference between a 48-hour level 1 charge to get to what percent on your battery, we'll be able to do that in the 4 free hours with a level 2 charger. So this is a stopgap to between now and when we get them installed to alleviate any concerns about misappropriation of district taxpayers' funds. And I've spoken with our EV users, and they think it's a good compromise.
Any other questions? Okay. All right. So let us move to board member updates and ideas for future meetings. Do we have any ideas for future meetings, board member updates that you wish to make?
I'm going to be visiting an tactical electric vehicle upfitter. That's 5 weeks or to get a full download on the current climate of upfitting Rivian vehicles for police and fire use. I have one demonstrated for actually as the vendor down at Glendale. And he was on his way to Durango and decided to agree to stop by the police department, and multiple officers got to test this thing and put through its paces along with the chain of command, and felt like it would be worthwhile to visit their facility. They invited me up, and personally, I just want it from an auto and truck tech's point of view. I wanted that training and exposure because I don't have any currently with electrics. I consider necessary for me, but I will take a full report and present it accordingly.
Yeah, if the unintended benefit is if it adds value to fire district's command vehicle needs, that's a plus. So and I thank you for doing that, but I know that you're doing it because it's cool.
Of course, but I think it's you know, I believe it's necessary because several upfit vendors that is both agencies use will be in attendance. The Waterous people, who apparently are right down the street, invited me over to tour their facility and get some training. And I'm a Hale guy, but I've never, Waterous, one of the 3 major pumps in use, and a network build provider that are coming out with the latest and greatest for all of our tactical vehicles as far as integrating networks with sirens and comms and real-time data, that's something you just don't pass up. If it's being handed to you, you take it.
You know, Chief, I think it's really cool too, and they didn't invite me.
But I just, and, to that and the previous point about EVs is the technology is improving. And I think it's important that we have a solid knowledge base on how it could improve services and I from an environmental standpoint, I think as an employer, we ought to support initiatives to encourage our commuters to have fuel efficient vehicles.
Yeah.
So,
And I want to be, this is just me, but I prefer that operations be at the front end of this. I don't want a vendor coming in with what they might think, is a good fit for us or the other. I want us to be at the forefront of it. And because we're still at the cutting edge of this thing, my spidey senses say, go now, stoke it up and report.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll be doing.
Right. Others,
Got nothing.
I'm interested in the fire that broke out 2 miles from my home in the DOC, while I was 2 states away. And I started getting calls from everybody and luckily from Corey saying, do you know about this? But what was interesting to me was the communication that happened, because it felt a little bit convoluted and people didn't really know about it. And one of the main communication players, thankfully, was the Red Rock News, and who got more information out than I think Yavapai County may have. And then a key person that got information out, and I'm scratching my head over this, was Karen McClelland, who is sits on the school board and on a little tiny unknown board that's an elected board that manages the
179.
yeah, the
Medians.
one at 79 medians. Exactly. It's like, how did that happen? But when we have these fires and they're coordinated between the forest folks and us and maybe in between Coconino County, and you've got lots of hands in that stew, the communication isn't always clear on who's going to be doing what and what information goes to the community that's directly involved, that's on Ready, Set, Go, and those folks who aren't even being told anything, who are like my house, who are 2 miles away, but are like going, what do we do? What do we do? What do we tell our cat sitter who knew nothing? And so I'd really like more conversation about how do we influence that, because we get painted with the same brush of we don't know what's going on as everybody else does. It's a negative for the fire service overall. And I think we could help to lead better communication than that.
And
Sorry about that.
no, I agree. And communication's always the barrier. In fact, we identified some concerns last week with inter-county concerns, and we've got a after action review planned. The difficult piece for Sedona Fire with this particular fire is we were strategically and tactically observers. We weren't, it was in the forest proper. So the forest takes over management, and then the county, Yavapai County, I've been to numerous meetings over the past 3 years about how the Ready, Set, Go works and the zones and everything else. And I never experienced it as an end user, if you will, or in our district. And I've identified some opportunities for us to better assist the county in communicating those things. And
Absolutely.
and it was there are some structures that are supposed to be in place that weren't in place, to know out of our control completely. But I think we have the resources to help those players get to the table. And independently, every organization for the most part operated as is expected, but again, you know, I commend our office staff. I came down to make sure Audrey knew what watch duty was, and her and Elise already had it pulled up in there. So she was getting, she's really, Audrey's position is really the one that gets hammered with these things, and she had up to the date, appropriate, relevant information to produce for the public, and then we tried to message it on Facebook, and then there was frankly a disconnect with the county resources, and we're planning a meeting to discuss that soon.
Good. I think that's really important, but I also think it gives us an opportunity because this was, you know, so close to a population center that we're responsible for. And so I think we can really look at it and try and take a visible leadership position around it in improving specifically communication where there are all these players. My 2 cents.
I agree.
Right.
And in fact, we're actively working on,
Good.
that's why I kind of smirked, because we too have identified some concerns.
Good.
Great. Yeah.
I just said this will come.
Okay, so I just have a few things. Let me begin by thanking Christy for providing the copies of the MOUs and with some other documents that I asked her to provide. And I've also asked her to provide the board with copies of the final budget so that you have them to put into your board handbooks, replacing the ones that are in there. So I just want to make sure that, but thank you, Christy, for that. Another thing is hopefully all the board members have received the information about the State of the County meeting on September 16th. That happens to be the same day that our board meeting happened. And in the interest of making sure that we don't scramble out of one meeting to run from Prescott to here to have the board meeting at 3 o'clock, I would like to move the board meeting to 4:30. And I know it's later, but hopefully we'll be expeditious in the meeting.
We'll have a short agenda. prepared.
Expeditious. The other thing, and it's aligns somewhat with what you were talking about, was that on September 10th, Nikki Chuck is having a meeting, an information session for the folks in VOC or whomever wants to attend, that we will be participating in, the chief and Jason and will be participating in. And also just a reminder that on September 11th, we have a pancake breakfast and ceremony at Station 6.
And following our past directives, it's going to be a brief conversation with the attendees and then a pancake breakfast to unite the community.
Yeah.
Next year, we will plan a more robust ceremony in remembrance of the 25th anniversary. But this year will be a very muted, solemn event.
So on that note, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session on personnel matters pursuant to AR 38-431.03, subsection A1, in regards to the fire chief's evaluation and legal advice pursuant to ARS 38-431.03.83, and instructions to the attorney pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A4 regarding the same. Could I have a seconder?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Yeah.
We are going into executive session.
That's some homework.
You all set? Okay. So we are returning to public session, and there is no action that has required coming out of the executive session that requires further efforts on our part. So this meeting is adjourned.